smart things at all.
I can't say enough awful things about what the Astros did, but I'm going to try. It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. I just got to get one in. I had to get the crowd pumped moment. We are live, hanging out at Harry Caray's in Navy Pier. Mike Golic Jr. does not approve of that at all.
You're drunk with power, right?
Well,
You are.
You got a little taste. You looked out. Here it is.
did.
I blame. You know what? I'm never going to blame French toast for anything because French toast is lovely.
Yeah.
But I'm going to blame you and what you do when you're on powdered sugar.
The best part about my French toast this morning is that I put no syrup on it, just the powdered sugar. Happy Valentine's Day, gentlemen. That's just for you. So you guys were on your way to Chicago yesterday, and I watched the abomination known as the Astros press conference live. And it's rare that I'm sitting there in studio and my mouth drops. And my mouth dropped at just the absolute cluelessness of Jim Crane, the owner of the Astros, and the Astros as a franchise for taking the time to prepare, I would hope, for a moment that was absolutely just, it was pitiful. And pitiful is being nicer than I've been off air about what we saw yesterday. And I played this in the moment, but we've got our ESPN Major League Baseball insider, Buster Olney. Before we get to Buster, I want to replay two important things that happened in this press conference.
Happened like 20 seconds apart.
Yes, and because the first answer, I looked at the guys in the studio and I said, what did he say? And then the follow-up question, we all started just yelling at the TV. So first, I want you to hear, he was asked, Jim Crane, the Astros owner, was asked specifically if he had a message to the Yankees about the ALCS that they won a couple of years ago in the cheating scandal year. This was his answer.
Mr. Crane, what do you have to say to the Yankees and teams that you beat in 17?
Listen, the Yankees have had a few comments out there. Our opinion is, that this didn't impact the game. We had a good team. We won the World Series, and we'll leave it at that.
So
We all heard didn't impact the game, correct?
And I was screaming, this didn't impact the game so loud in that moment. And then, like an angel from the heavens, Jeff Passan almost immediately asked this follow-up question.
Jim, when talking about the Yankees there, did you say you feel like this didn't impact the game? And what do you mean by that?
I didn't say it didn't impact the game. Basically, as the commissioner said in his report, he's not going to go backwards. It's hard to determine how it impacted the game, if it impacted the game, and that's where we're going to leave it.
Oh. Yeah, I remember grinding my feet on Eddie Murphy's couch. What the hell are you talking about?
I mean, Jim Crane can never fault a player ever again for mishandling a press conference after he just butchered what he did yesterday in front of the press in a moment that they were expected to be prepared for. So we're going to get some thoughts. We're going to go to the Shell Penzo Performance Line. ESPN Major League Baseball insider Buster Olney joins us there. Buster, I want your just try and summarize your reaction to what the Astros gave us yesterday.
I was just blown away when I heard that. I was incredulous like the rest of the baseball world. Immediately tweeted out, wait, you're saying it didn't impact the sport. Then the question is, what are you apologizing for? Like, what? And, the idea that it didn't impact the sport is ridiculous. I ran downstairs after the end of that press conference because Aroldis Chapman had agreed to talk on camera. And I asked him, I related what Jim Crane had said in the press conference and asked him how he felt about it. And he looked at me almost like, what? He said, what? He said it didn't impact it. And then he went on to explain what everyone in the world knows, that, yes, if you're a batter at this level and you know what the pitch is going to be, then it is an advantage. And that went on for months and months and months and months for the Astros. I've been comparing the Astros to in the eyes of their peers, how they're looked, to someone who's stealing at a neighborhood poker game. And what Jim Crane basically said yesterday, yeah, we were dealing from the bottom of the deck, and that had no impact on us taking all your money. It was laughable.
It was completely laughable. And then to contradict what he had just said, he was an embarrassment. And I didn't expect that. So then we go from that, and we have Bregman and Altuve talk at the presser just a sentence or two. But I kind of pushed that aside because we knew they were going to talk in the clubhouse. So let's go to that part of it, and because that's what everybody was waiting to hear from the player side of it. When you heard all the players, different players talk, did any of them stand out to you as, what they said there was really good, or nobody's going to buy that? How did you think it all went?
Well, first off, the plan to have Bregman and Altuve speak for a combined 1 minute and 15 seconds was a bad idea. That didn't come off well. And between that and what Jim Crane said, it's kind of too bad because when that press conference ended and reporters descended into the clubhouse, from what I understand, I wasn't there. I'm over at Yankees camp. Every Astro from 2017 was standing in front of his locker, and some of them guys did great. Carlos Correa did great. Like, he acknowledged, yes, it was an advantage, and we're responsible. I'm responsible. And he spoke very strongly on behalf of Carlos Beltran, who seems to be a guy who anonymously is getting thrown under the bus by some of the people in the organization. And I thought those were great, but that was totally overshadowed by what Jim Crane did in their structuring of this press conference.
Talking to ESPN Major League Insider Buster Olney with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Shell Pennzoil synthetic motor oils are made from natural gas, so the next time you get an oil change, ask for Pennzoil. The proof is in the Pennzoil. Buster, we asked yesterday, all right, what could the Astros potentially say that could help make this better? What could they say that could make this go well? Obviously, in a lot of instances, it's a famous disaster. So does this get worse for them now? Does this drag on even further because of how mishandled it was yesterday?
Yes, no doubt about it. Now, yesterday, Aroldis Chapman spoke with great respect for Marwin Gonzalez and how, the ex-Astros with the Twins, who a few days ago spoke in a heartfelt manner about how he affected the lives and the Astros affected the lives of others and how he's going to speak with other players. And I think individually that'll happen. That Correa and Altuve and other guys might go and speak to some of their opponents, and that'll help. But as I've told you before, we have never seen what these guys are going to descend into as they go in road games. It wouldn't shock me if they lead the majors in road attendance just because you have all these baseball fans just dying to get out and heap them with scorn. I'll say it again. It's going to be their road games are going to be like 81 perp walks this year. It's going to be ugly.
Buster, what is Major League Baseball going to do when teams take sort of vigilante justice on players in games?
I don't. First off, I think that other teams. I don't think there's going to be a lot like we saw from Ryan Dempster with Alex Rodriguez, where it's going to be first inning, right out of the gate, throw 4 pitches at some hitter's head or something like that. I think it's going to be more subtle than that. That it'll be the 6th inning and there are 2 outs and there's nobody on base and boom, somebody gets one in the ribs. And there's not really a great response to that. Now you're going to have the warning system. Major League Baseball certainly will alert the umpires series to series what's potential. But look, I don't think there's anything they can do about it. And do I believe that there'll be a pound of flesh extracted at some point during the year? Absolutely, because we've never seen the type of anger aimed at this particular group of players from peers in the way we do with this one. And it's only been made worse by these multiple attempts at trying to apologize. You know how bad it is when I was doing radio yesterday and the radio host asked me a question about, well, where would you rank this on Astros PR debacles? Because we've had about 7 of them now.
Well, with that being said, Buster, what's the long-term effect from an organizational standpoint as players eventually hit free agency? How will they view the Astros as a potential landing spot?
I don't think, like, George Springer potentially could be a free agent next fall. If he goes out and has a big year, then he'll get paid. Individually, if Carlos Correa goes out and has a big couple of years and he hits free agency, he'll get paid. I think they'll move on from that. But let's face it, the stain on this group of players from this time will never go away. When the epitaphs on their baseball careers are written, this will be in the first 2 paragraphs, and that's not going to change.
So, Buster, I guess in that regard, it just has me thinking, how much worse does this all get because the Astros could still be really, really good this year?
Well, I suspect, and look, Mike and Junior, you guys are competitors. You play at a high level. One of the folks who was involved in the managerial search this winter told me, what's going to happen in that clubhouse. That right now they're on their heels. They're taking shots from all over. In fact, the criticism from other teams and other clubhouses reminds me of that scene in Animal House where Kevin Bacon's sitting there. Yes, sir. May I have another? And that is going to keep going on. But at some point, the competitors in that clubhouse are going to go, you know what? Really? You guys don't think we're good enough? Let's go. I think that's only a natural reaction you're going to see, and they have a really good team, and I do think there'll be some level of defiance. Now, that said, look, I've covered Roberto Alomar when he went through the spitting incident. In my opinion, he was deeply affected by the booing that he got, and he was never the same in terms of his love. On the other hand, Barry Bonds was defiant and took it on and thrived under that pressure. I do wonder which of the Astros might be affected by what they're going to experience here coming up.
So from Buster, from the headquarters for Major League Baseball, since we've heard Carlos Beltran say when he got to the Astros, basically telling them, man, you guys are behind the times, and he was with the Yankees before that, so everybody's kind of going, well, wait a minute, was there more going on? And you're hearing more and more players start to talk about situations like this. Are the execs, are baseball putting their hands over their ears and saying, please no more, please no more, please no more? Or are they going to have to investigate more? Are they going to have to keep this thing open?
If you see individual players go on the record, not anonymously, and I personally think that a lot of the stuff that came out this week from anonymous sources didn't pass the smell test. When it came to Carlos Beltran and Alex Cora, I thought that what was going on was another layer, 6 feet under, of people not being accountable, people trying to blame. I actually thought it was kind of gross. But if you see individual players like Mike Fiers go on the record moving forward and say, yes, this team did this in this spot, then Major League Baseball will be obligated to follow up with an investigation. And by the way, they're still working on the Red Sox thing. I don't think that's going to be resolved anytime soon. As I told you guys before, I've heard around the edges that they're working off very specific information. I don't know what that is, but they're building something as they go through that investigation.
Other effects, Buster, we talked about, players for the Astros getting thrown at. How about, players when they do the All-Star game? Players are part of the vote. Could that be used against them as well, and those guys just not get voted for? I mean, I'm just trying to think of ways players can try and, for lack of a better term, get even with these guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. There's been a question already. How does this affect, the Hall of Fame legacy moving forward for guys like Beltran, for Justin Verlander? Look, Justin Verlander is a first ballot, should be a unanimous selection for the Hall of Fame. Would it shock me if, like Roberto Alomar, that there's some penance placed upon him by the writers? No, it wouldn't. And I think that, potentially could happen with some of the All-Star voting with the other players, because the anger is so deep. Yesterday, when we repeated to Aaron Boone, the Yankees manager, what Jim Crane said, he just got this look on his face like, really? Like, really? Because he understands how important that advantage is that the Astros had throughout the 2017 season.
You guys can follow him on Twitter at Buster_ESPN. Buster, as always, you're doing great work on it. Thanks for hanging out with us and giving us your expertise this morning, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Buster. I'm just stunned how bad the Astros are at pressers, at PR. It blows my mind that at time and time again, and this time it came from the man who owns it. This time it came from the man with the most money there, absolutely just vomited when he tried to say anything that made sense.
Well, and Dad, you remember how this went back in the day. So I'll never forget, because when you go and do media on just like a normal day, if it's a Tuesday and you're getting ready to go and speak to the media, if you're a player on a team, you're walking over there, you're talking for college, it's the sports information director, your SIDs right at these schools, and you're talking with them about, all right, who you might potentially be talking to out there, who requested you. And we always went into it, and our SID would always tell us, this is what the head coach said. This is what our coordinator said, so that you know the information that's already out there, so we can all be on the same page as far as if there's something specific we want to make sure we're getting out messaging-wise, we're all marching forward to the beat of the same drum. What we hear from Buster is we've got Jim Crane out here barfing all over himself, and we've got players actually acquitting themselves somewhat well when given the opportunity, which means to me, what the hell went on in that meeting where I figured the owner was going to tell everybody, hey, here's the message we're going with here. Clearly, he was the one that somehow missed out on what was going on in this meeting, which was common sense and basic human decency.
Maybe people were trying to tell Jim Crane, and Jim's like, no. I got this.
It
Oh,
feel-
yeah,
You
you
guys
do,
see how
Jim.
tight my, you guys
Well
see how
done.
tight my shirt is? They're not going to hear a word I'm saying.
I said it a couple of times yesterday at different times. It felt like a God complex moment from Jim Crane where you just come in and you're so unprepared because he kept going to, I can tell you it's not going to happen again under my watch. It won't happen on my watch. But then he also kept saying he didn't know it was happening in the first place.
Under his watch.
Under his watch. He never acknowledged, and this is something Jeff Bassett pointed out with us yesterday, there was a small camera put in the dugout. He never acknowledged how that camera was in the dugout, why he didn't realize. You never walked by the dugout you own and thought, new camera, wonder what that's for. Like, he never answered a single question about how it happened under his watch. He simply said everybody that was accountable for it has been fired. I didn't know about it, and it won't happen again. It was too simplistic, and he wanted everybody just to say, oh, well, golly gee, shucks, Mr. Crane, I really appreciate that. It doesn't work that way.
You know who didn't go all golly gee shucks?
Oh.
Jeff Passan.
Oh, my gosh.
Jeff Passan absolutely scorching these people. If I may read from the gospel according to Jeff. Houston Astros owner Jim Crane's latest attempt at damage control blew up in spectacular fashion on Thursday. Over 27 minutes at a press conference, he claimed his team's routine cheating during its 2017 championship-winning season didn't impact the game, declared he shouldn't be held accountable for the organization he runs, used Commissioner Rob Manfred's report on the Astros' maleficence as a binky, and so often repeated talking points that the apology.xl program he tried to install in his head looked like it was glitching. The entire charade devolved into a glorious conflagration, Crane's mouth a veritable fountain of lighter fluid.
Wow.
Oh, my God. Jeff,
Wow.
a master's class and absolutely
now,
torching somebody.
Way too many big words.
Conflagration
wow.
and binky in the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
paragraph.
I hope
that's art.
I hope
that's art.
X has something to do with XL. It has been a while since I used one of those spreadsheets. If you guys can imagine,
But
this
it-
job does not require it.
It really was amazing that he just zeroed it down to basically saying, I knew nothing about it. The players aren't at fault. The commissioner said so, and I agree. Well, no. The commissioner actually said this was a player-driven thing. He just wasn't punishing the players, but he didn't acknowledge that. So basically he said the two guys, Luno and Hinch, were involved, and I fired them. I'm the man. I took care of this situation again, and it'll never happen on our watch. I mean, man, did he sound dumb.
Even the nuances in that.
Wow.
As he sat there and said, hey, they were putting pressure on players to do things that weren't right. But then when he was asked specifically about the culture created, he's like, oh, we don't have a culture issue. Well, so the players were being pressured to do things they didn't want to do to the point that you don't think they should be held accountable, but there's not a culture issue? And if there is a culture issue, doesn't it start with the people he hired? Again, like, I mean, this just lays at the feet of Jim Crane. In a beautiful world, I wish there was a way that Major League Baseball could come together as a group and say, guess what, Jim Crane, you don't get to own a baseball team anymore. We're going to take the Astros and give it to somebody that doesn't have their head up their rear end.
At the very least, just don't let him talk anymore. Like I don't know whether to to scold or to feel bad for whoever is Astros PR in this. Like, is it just Jim Crane? You're giving him all the notes and you guys are studying for the test. Like, I don't need these flashcards. I'm going to go out here and wing it. Or is Astros PR just as involved and just as inept in all this? Because, man, like, this stuff is not that hard. Like, getting out of these situations with the ability to kind of put it in the rear view is not hard. If you just do what a lot of those players did, say, yes, it absolutely gave us an advantage. It was wrong for us to do. We're not going to do it anymore. Of course, sign stealing helps us win games. Now, the answer that he was searching for in the dark, wandering around Bird Box style, was, hey, listen, guys, do I think it gave us an advantage in those games? Absolutely. But I also think in 2017, we had a great baseball team. I think we had a group of guys that were going out there and doing a lot of winning of their own accord, even without this. So do I still think we deserve to be considered the 2017 World Series champions? Absolutely. I think we were that good a baseball team. But there's no doubt it gave us an advantage of this. Period. End of sentence. Then you look at that and go, well, yeah, that guy is still supporting what he believes is his very good baseball team while admitting the thing that we all know.
But again, they didn't have any time. I mean, this presser was just thrown upon them. They had
that's
no
true.
idea it
That's
was
true.
coming.
That's
I mean,
true.
it just took them out of the
It
blue.
just makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
Stupidity.
The great thing is that Marley Rivera was there also, and she was not going to let Jim Crane sort of wax around some of his inconsistencies. Check out this back and forth.
Jim, sign stealing is a distinct advantage for the hitter. So how is it that it doesn't affect competition? So then what are you guys apologizing for?
We're apologizing because we broke the rules.
But isn't sign stealing a distinct advantage for the hitter, so doesn't it automatically impact competition?
It could possibly do that. It could possibly not.
He also wouldn't say. He was asked directly if he cheated, and he's like, "Well, we broke the rules."
Broke the rules.
Wouldn't say the word cheated.
What did the commissioner's report say?
Yeah.
I would have paid infinity dollars if he had just barfed on the table there. Would have really just driven home.
He did.
what
It
we
was
ordered.
just. It was just in words.
Can we have an honest?
That was full Mean Girls. Oh God, word vomit.
Yeah.
The grown-ups at the table are going to talk here for a second. All right, the married men. If you've ever looked at your wife and said, and she's like, "What are you sorry for?" and you're like, "Breaking the rules."
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what does that go? How does that go down?
It's going to go over really well.
That's spectacular.
Wait, so I just want to be clear on something for a second. You're going to single shame me on Valentine's Day. That's the energy you want to throw into the world.
I brought you a Valentine's,
Did.
and I sent you a picture of a Valentine's because I'm too cheap to buy you one.
Jason
did you
Fitz
get me anything?
was in the store, saw a Valentine's Day card that cost $1. He said, I'm not going to buy it for you, but happy Valentine's Day a week ago. You want to talk about the romance is dead.
I mean, it had a pug on it. He likes pugs. Like, come on. I feel like I was.
That's not all I like, Jason. You would know that if you cared.
Oh, this is see what.
Are you guys done?
Yes, we are done. I can assure you of that.
No, we are just getting started. As it's a great episode of Golic and Wingo today. You see that transition. We're hanging out live. Obviously, we got a lot of NBA we're going to get to throughout the course of the day. We got some great NBA guests. We're down in Chicago. Come hang out with us at Harry Carey's down in Navy Pier. We will be down here for the next several hours getting ready for all things Chicago. But coming up, one NFL player who's certainly not sending a division rival a Valentine's Day card. We'll get to that next. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News.